Hello there and welcome back to another episode of our Luminar NEO Academy, the show where we help you to get the most out of this photo editing application. Now, if you've never been here before, my name is Jakub and I'm a creator and founder here at Clever Photographer. Now, before we going to start, I have a few things I want to cover. First of all, at the end of the video, I'm gonna give you access to our popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet, so you make sure that you stay until the end. Also, if you don't own Luminar NEO or the HDR Merge plugin, get our discount code to get the best possible price, and you can find it in the description of this video. Finally, I would like to ask you to please like, comment and share on this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. In this video tutorial, I will show you how to use all the extensions from Luminar NEO with the Lightroom plugin version of the software. This will include the HDR Merge, Focus Stacking and Upscale AI. I will cover all the extensions in this video. However, if you're looking for a specific extension, you can use the chapters to skip and select the content you are looking for. But before we're going to do that, don't forget that you can download all the sample files by going into description of this video, following the link there and downloading them from our Dropbox account. To finish it off, I just want to quickly mention that this tutorial is powered by our Luminar NEO Masterclass. This massive course includes almost 70 lessons with over 10 hours of training videos in 4K quality. To find out more about it, head to our website cleverphotographer.com or follow the link in the description. In this part of the tutorial, we're gonna be focusing on an HDR Merge extension. Now we have a full tutorial on what is HDR, how to capture it, and how to use the tool in Luminar NEO. So today we're really gonna just focus on how to use it together with Lightroom Classic. Now as you can see, we are already in Lightroom Classic and we have 3 images waiting for us. Now when it comes to using the HDR Merge, you can use it with 1 image, 3, 5, 7, 9 or as many as you like. So for this example, we're gonna use 3. We have the original exposure, we have the exposure where we focus on the highlights, and the exposure where we focus on the shadows. Now before we're gonna move them into Luminar NEO, we wanna do some basic adjustments to them. I always like to start on a standard exposure, so let's select it and let's move into our main toolbar. The only thing that we're gonna do here is to provide a basic development. To start with, I want you to go into the lens correction and make sure that both of the remove chromatic aberration and enable profile correction is on. The reason why we're doing it now is that when the file will return from Luminar NEO, it will no longer be a raw file. So this is a good time where we assign a profile correction of the lens and camera to the image. So that's the lens correction. After this, we're gonna go into the basic tool. In a basic tool, we wanna do the basic development. We will start by going into the highlights and bring them down, but don't go too far, just very gently. So let's say -40. With the shadows, similarly, we wanna open them a little bit, but once again, not too much. With the whites and with the blacks, just hold the slider and then hit Alt or Option on your keyboard and just slide the whites up until you start to see white dots on your screen. That means that these areas are overexposed, so just back a little bit and continue. After that, going into the blacks, similarly, hold Alt or Option and just bring the slider down until you start to see a little bit of black. That's the area that is underexposed. So I think something like this, maybe just open the shadows a little bit more and just increase the white a little bit. After this, we can come back to our exposure and contrast. We will add a little bit of contrast to it, but we don't have to go crazy. And we maybe make it just a little bit brighter, but very gently, maybe just 0.20. Once we're done here, we can move on to the white balance. Now we are starting with white balance set by the camera, and we can click on a drop-down box here and see what the auto would do. It makes it quite nice, it makes it a little bit cooler, but I probably prefer the original setting. We can still try some of the other settings here, like daylight, which is way too warm, maybe cloudy, even warmer. We can try the tungsten and see how that does. Actually, we're just gonna bring it back to as shot. And if anything, I would just add a little bit of magenta to the overall image. So we increase the slider to somewhere around +5. To finish it off, let's just quickly move into the presence area, add a little bit of texture, again very gently, bring the clarity down to make it a little bit more natural. And finally, we can add a little bit of vibrance to the image, just somewhere around +10. To finish it off, we're gonna add a little bit of sharpening. For this, we need to go into the Detail tab, so click on it to open it. And here the sharpening is already on 40, so just increase it to 60. Now the noise is quite heavy here, so what we can do, we can go into the noise reduction and place it around 20. Once we're done here, we can close the Detail tab and we are done with the initial development. Now all we need to do is to share this setting across the other images. For this, we need to go to the bottom of our screen and hold Ctrl or Command on your keyboard and select the other two images. After that, return to your main toolbar and simply click on Sync, as for synchronize. After that, it will open a new window. Just click on Check All and click on Synchronize. It will take a moment, and basically it just takes the setting from the initial image and share it with other two images. Let's just double check. Let's click on the second image, go into the basic settings, and double check here if the setting is applied. I think everything is looking good. Obviously, it's a little bit darker, but that is all good. And then finally, the third image, similarly, the setting is applied. All I would do here is to reset the exposure, and we can continue. So now we have 3 images ready to be merged with the HDR Merge in Luminar NEO. So let's go back to the bottom of our screen. Once again, double check that all 3 images are selected, and then right click on one of them and navigate into the export. Here, look for the Luminar NEO section, and then click on HDR Merge in Luminar NEO. Lightroom will prepare the 3 images and send them over to the Luminar NEO. And now we are in Luminar NEO looking at the extension window. So this is what you see when you send the images from Lightroom into Luminar NEO to add them to the HDR Merge extension. You see the 3 images here, and you also see the little circle in the bottom left corner. Click on it, and that will open additional settings. Here, click on Auto Alignment. Also, click on a Chromatic Aberration Reduction, and if you want, you can also check on a Ghost Reduction. As there was no movement on these images, I'm gonna leave it unchecked, and I can just click anywhere else to return. If you want to return, you can now click on Cancel. However, we are happy, we have everything set, so we're gonna click on Merge. Luminar NEO will now process the images, merge them together, and then we will be able to continue. When the image is processed, you have 3 options. Here you can apply a preset in a presets module, or you can apply your own edit in an edit module, or you can skip all of that and just bring the image back into the Lightroom Classic and continue from there. Since we're here, let's go back into the presets module and then into the purchase section where we can test some of our own HDR presets. Let's scroll down where we have the HDR landscape presets, and now I can just hover over them individually to see the result we're going to get. For me, strong sunset or strong sunrise looking quite nice, so let's select the strong sunrise. It takes just a second, and then the edit is applied to the image. Looking at it, it's looking quite good, so we can just bring it back into the edit module. Here, just to double check, let's go into the edits tab, where you can see all the edits applied to the image. Now, let's bring it back into the tools section, where we can apply some additional noise reduction as we have lots of noise on the image with the use of the Noiseless AI. So let's navigate into the Noiseless AI, click on it to open it, and then following the advice, select the high setting. The application will now scan the image and then apply a noise reduction to get us the best possible result. Once the noise reduction is applied, it zooms us to 100% so we can see the result, and if we want, we can apply some additional adjustments with the use of the sliders on the extension. I'm quite happy with the result. We can double check the before and after, and when we're done, we're just gonna click on Apply. Now Luminar NEO will prepare the file and send it back to Lightroom Classic. When you return to Lightroom Classic, you may end up with a result like this. It may be blue or super yellow, but don't worry about it. The reason is that the image got the same setting as the original images. Let me show you what I mean. When I click on the initial photo and head back to the settings, you will see that the exposure is on 0.20, contrast on 9, highlights -40, and so on. So now when I select our new file, it actually carries the same setting. But we don't want that. The fix is really simple. Just navigate to the bottom of your main toolbar and click on Reset. This way you will get the image looking the same way as when it left Luminar NEO. Now of course that you can take the image and continue with the edit. You could for example go into the effects, apply some nice vignette, then go into the basic and now really jump in and start the edit to create the best possible result. And now it's time to focus on the Upscale AI and how to use it with Lightroom Classic. To test it, we have this image of the moon I have captured in Morocco, which I would like to use as an overlay. So the first thing, before we're gonna take the image and send it over to Luminar NEO, we wanna apply basic development to it and maybe even crop it. So actually, let's start with the cropping right away. So let's go into our main toolbar, click on a crop tool, and in our presets, click on the drop-down box and select the 1-on-1 square. Now we can use the corners of the crop and just adjust the position and the size of the crop. I actually want it even smaller, and let's end up with something like this. Making sure that we are in the center. Once we're happy, just hit enter. Now we have the crop done and we're gonna continue with the basic development. First, we're gonna go into the lens correction section and make sure that both of the options are checked here, remove chromatic aberration and enable profile correction. The reason why we do this now is that when the image will return from Lightroom Classic, it will not be a raw file anymore. So now is a good time to apply the camera and a lens profile. We have done that and we can move into the basic section. Click on it to open it, and here very gently just a light adjustments. So let's go into the highlights, bring them down a little bit, somewhere maybe just around -10, 11. Then the shadows, open them up again, maybe +20. Now moving to the whites, let's just click on the slider and then hold Alt or Option on your keyboard and increase it until you start to see a white overlay. The white areas that are visible on the image are the areas that are overexposed. So let's just bring it down a little bit, and about +53 is good. Moving on to the blacks, similarly, let's just click on the slider and then hold Alt or Option and bring the slider down. Somewhere around here is looking good, and we are almost done. Now we can move towards the white balance, which actually is looking quite good. If you want, you can also try one of the presets here. So let's just click on the white balance drop-down box and then choose the auto, which gives us little warmer result. Then daylight, it will be much more warmer, and then so on. I actually like how it was originally, so let's just click on as shot. Finally, before we're gonna go, let's go into the presence here, bring up some of the texture and maybe even a little bit of the clarity. Finally, covering the vibrance and saturation. This image doesn't have any colors. However, if you're working on a picture with colors, adjust it, but again, with a little bit of caution, you don't want to overdo it at this point. Now we are done, and to finish it off, let's just go into the Detail tab, where we want to increase the sharpening. Let's just go somewhere around +60 or 70, and add a little bit of noise reduction. In our case, maybe just 20. Once we finish here, we can close the Detail tab and we can come back to our image at the bottom of the screen. Now right-click on it and navigate towards the Export. When the Export open, find the Luminar NEO section, and what we are looking for now is the Upscale photo in Luminar NEO. So click on it, and Lightroom Classic will prepare the image and send it over into Luminar NEO. The first screen we're going to see in Luminar NEO is the Upscale AI extension. We have our image, and then the option to choose between 2 times, 4 times, and 6 times the original size. For me, I want to go for the 2 times, so I just click on it and leave it. Next option is additional setting here, which is at the bottom left corner. So just click on it and you will get additional option to enhance the face. However, as this image doesn't have it, we can leave it empty and it will give you some additional information. It will tell you that the minimum input size is 257 on 257 pixels. Maximum input size is 16,000 pixels on the longest side, and the maximum output size will be 32,000 pixels on the longest side. Now, if you wouldn't be happy with any of the settings, you could leave by clicking on the cancel. However, we have everything ready and set, so let's just click on Upscale. It will take a few moments, it will process the image and then prepare it for further editing in Luminar NEO. When the processing is over, we can continue with the edit. Now we have 3 options. We can first apply preset here in the presets module, or we can do more editing by ourselves in edit module. And if we want to skip all of that, we can just click on apply and continue in Lightroom Classic. For this image, the only thing we're gonna do here is to go into the essential section, go into the structure AI and increase the amount until I get the result I like. I think somewhere around 4950 is good, and once I'm happy, I can just click on Apply and return back to the Lightroom Classic. When we return in a Lightroom Classic, you will notice that the new image is looking strange. But don't worry about it, we're gonna fix it in a moment. The reason is that when we go to the original image and then open the basic adjustments, you will see that there are some settings here. Now when I open our new image, you will see that the setting is exactly the same. So all we need to do is to go to the bottom of the main toolbar and click on Reset. And just like magic, you have a new image, twice the size, looking the same way as when it left Luminar NEO. Now what you could do next is to continue with the edit, use the tools available here in Lightroom Classic, and then when you finish, export it and use it. Now in this part of the tutorial, we're gonna look at the Focus Stacking extension. We are again starting in a Lightroom Classic and we have our images ready here. If you want to learn more about Focus Stacking and the actual extension, make sure you watch the video we have available on our channel. So now we're just gonna focusing on the actual use of the extension with Lightroom Classic. Anyway, I have 8 images here. Let's have a look at the first one. You can see that the leaves here are clearly in focus and the background is very much out of focus. It's very soft. When I look at the last image, the 8th one, you can see that the building and everything else is in full sharpness, fully in focus, and the leaves starting to be soft at the bottom here. So to merge and stack all the focus together, we're gonna use the Focus Stacking extension. But the first thing we need to do here in Lightroom Classic is the basic adjustment. So let's select the first image, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna navigate towards our main toolbar and apply very basic development. To start, let's go in the lens corrections and make sure that both of these options are checked. Remove chromatic aberration and enable profile correction. At this point, we are still working with raw file, and that's why it's important to do these things before you send them over to Luminar NEO. So the first thing, lens corrections. After that, we can navigate towards our basic panel and do very basic and light editing here. First, let's go into the highlights and bring them down. Again, something kind of gentle, around -70. And with the shadows, let's open them as well. let's go ahead and go somewhere around plus 60. After that, we move on our whites and blacks. Hold the slider and then hit Option or Alt on your keyboard. You will see that your screen will turn black. And when you now take the whites up on your slider, you will see that at some point you will start to see certain colorful overlays. That means that these areas are overexposed, so then you need to bring the slider down until they disappear. So somewhere around, let's say, 10. After that, we can do exactly the same with the blacks, but this time we're gonna be bringing the slider down. We already see some black areas, you can have a little bit of them, so let's just go somewhere around minus 60. To continue, we can have a look at the exposure and contrast, so let's add some contrast to it, and with the exposure, maybe just a little bit up. After that, we're gonna be looking at the white balance. Already at this point, we're looking at the white balance coming from the camera. And when you click on the drop-down box here, you can choose between auto, which makes it a little bit warmer. And then you can go for the daylight, which is a little bit blue and green, cloudy, maybe a little bit better, shade, and so on. For me, I like the as should. I think it's looking quite good for this point. If anything, maybe we can just add a little bit of extra warmth. Once we finish with these, what we can do is to move to the bottom of the basic panel and add a little bit of texture and bring the clarity down to make it a little bit more natural. If you want, you can play around with the vibrance and saturation. What I usually do is to bring the saturation down to somewhere around minus 10 and then just play around with the vibrance until I like the result. This is looking quite good, so we are done with the basic panel. And to finish it off, let's also do the details. So let's go into the detail. And here we already have a 40% on the sharpening. So let's increase it to 60 to start with. After that, let's use the masking slider. Again, just click on it and hold Alt or Option on your keyboard and bring it up until you see some parts of the image being completely dark. What it basically does, it tells the sharpening to only sharpen the areas that have a texture, detail or edge on it. Now looking at the noise reduction, this image is quite clear, but I always like to add at least plus 10 just to make sure that everything is looking good. When we finish, we can close the detail section and we are done. Next, what we want to do, we want to take the edit we just created and synchronize it with the rest of the images. First, we need to go to the bottom of our screen and let's just hold Shift and click on the final last 8th image. There are many different ways you could do this. You could also hold Command or Control A. You could use Command and click on each of the images, but the result is the same. You want to select all the images. Back to our main toolbar and just click on Sync for Synchronize. When the new window opens, click on Check All and then just click on Synchronize. Lightroom Classic will then take the initial edit and apply it to all the other images. So for example, when we go into the image number 5, click on it to select it and then go into the basic panel again, you can see the edit has been already applied. So we are finished here in Lightroom Classic and it's time to stack the images together. All we need to do is to right click on one of them, then go into the export and in the export look for the Luminar NEO section. Here you can see we have the focus stacking in Luminar NEO, so just click on it. And now Lightroom Classic will take the images and send them over to Luminar NEO where we're gonna continue. The first screen you're going to see in Luminar NEO is the Focus Stacking extension. Starting by looking at the images, you can scroll through them and see all 8 images we sent over. Additionally, you can click on the little setting option at the bottom left corner of the tool where you can choose to auto-align the images. You always want to have that on. And you can also pick the reference image. Generally, it picks the image in the middle. I think it's a good decision. So let's just click on it and continue. Additionally, we have an option to remove chromatic aberration. So let's pick that on and we can continue. Just click anywhere else. And all we need to do now is to click on Stack. Now Luminar NEO will process the image, merge it together and prepare it for us so we can do the further editing on it. When the image is ready, it will appear in a presets module where we can continue. In overall, you have three options here. You could apply a preset, or you could go into the edit and do your own edit, or you could completely skip this step and just click on apply and continue in Lightroom Classic. For us, let's try to apply preset to it. So let's go into the presets, and here let's go into the purchase section where we can test some of our own presets here. Here, in the list of collections that coming from our Luminar NEO bundles, we can scroll down and let's try the autumn tones, open it, and now when I hover over, I can choose which one I prefer. So for me, for example, the natural tones looking quite good, so I just click on it and it will apply it to the image. Once it's done, we can now move back into the edit module. And if we want, we can continue with the edit here. If I want to adjust anything that came with the preset, I can go into the edit tab and have a look there. Or I can add any of the additional tools we have available. So for example, I can go into the Enhance AI and just increase it to get the result I'm looking for. Once I'm done here, all I need to do is to click on Apply. Now Luminar NEO will take the image after the focus stacking. It will apply the preset, any additional editing we done to it, and then send it back to Lightroom Classic. When the image returns to Lightroom Classic, it will look a little bit strange. However, don't worry, there is an easy fix for that. The reason why it has these colors is when we go to the initial image and open the settings in our main toolbar, remember that we have added some exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, and so on. Now the same settings has been applied to our new image. Let me open it, and you will see that exactly the same numbers are on it. Now to reset that, all we need to do is to go to the bottom of the list and click on Reset. And now the image is looking exactly the same way like when it left Luminar NEO. After this is done, after you reset the image, you can continue by using any of the tools here in Lightroom Classic and then just export the image and use it. And to finish off today's tutorial, I want to make sure that you're aware that all the rest of the extensions can be used directly in Luminar NEO and nothing changed there. So I have one more sample file. Once again, I have applied very simple development to it. In the basic panel, I have also done some lens correction adjustments, making sure that it's all applied. And I have done some detail work. I have added some sharpening and also applied some noise reduction. So this is all I do. I open lens corrections, make sure that I remove the chromatic aberration, enable the profile correction. Then I go into the basic panel, deal with all of that here, and I finish it off with the details. Once I am done, all I do is I move the image into Luminar NEO. For this, we can just right-click on the image, go into the Edit In, and select Luminar NEO here. Now, with the following setting, we can set the quality of the image going into Luminar NEO. I usually like to go for the TIFF. The Adobe RGB works quite well. I go for the highest possible quality, so I always select the 16 bits, and I usually set my resolution to 300. In compression, I leave it on none, and then I click on Edit. Now, Lightroom Classic prepare the file and send it to Luminar NEO for further editing. When the file is moved into Luminar NEO, the first window we see is the presets module. What we can do, we can apply preset here, or we can move it into edit module where I want to show you where all the extensions are. So I'm not going to use them, we have a separate videos for it, but I wanted to show you to make sure that you're aware that you can use all of these extensions here without the need of doing anything in Lightroom Classic. So let's just go quickly through the list. We have the Noiseless AI here, then we have the Super Sharp AI, Magic Light AI, and then we go into the layer properties and then masking. You will see that we have the extension called Background Removal AI here. Now today, we're not gonna use any of these extensions here. It's just to show you that they are here and they are available. So you would bring your file, apply any of the tools here, included the extensions, and once you would be finished, you would just click on Apply. Luminar NEO will now process the file, add all the editing, and then it will bring it back into the Lightroom Classic. Once we back in Lightroom Classic, we will have the new file at the bottom of our list here, and we can just continue applying any of the edits with the tools available here. And there you have it. If you want a copy of our popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet, there is nothing easier than heading to our website cleverphotographer.com/LuminarGive. While you're there, you can also check out one of our popular Luminar NEO products, or you can stay here and watch more videos about Luminar NEO. For today, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure that you like, comment, and share on this video. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. For today, thank you very much for watching. My name was Jakub, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.